Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. So I'm going to even really paint the picture here. When I first met Ryan, I considered myself a dreamer, open, you know, I was open, I wanted to grow, I was always sort of propelled to the next adventure, and that's how I defined myself, growth person.
Exactly.
However, when I met Ryan, I remember going to his house, and in his bookshelf were 3 different rows, and it was like how to be the best golfer, how to be the best investor, basically all the investment book, and then personal development. You know, literally like how to become kind of a lot of the Tony Robbins book, and then in the corner was how to find a wife. It was so funny, but his mom gave it to him. Because
like, it was just
little, yeah, it was like, I was like, that is out of context. Yeah, and literally there was a note from his mom, and I asked him later on, I was like, have you read it? He goes, no. And I thought, wow, this man who was willing to grow. So in our relationship, I thought I was growing, and he always was sort of growing. However, here's the reality of the context is that Ryan would put on a Tony Robbins, and literally I remember being married first or second year, he would put it in the background when we first wake up, and he would put it in the background when we first go to sleep at night. And I'm thinking, what is going on?
This is not the romance I had in mind.
Correct. And I'm literally, and so he's so excited about these things. And I can now look back and say, I was not open-minded.
Wow.
And I'm an open person, which is why I think that book is really critical, because it's a measuring point.
Book.
Yes, the mindset book. It's because there's so many areas in our life that we might think we're growing, but we're not. It becomes almost an examination of conscience or a point of measurement in our language where, wait a minute, I wasn't growing. Because it wasn't really till, I want to say 3.5 years ago, where Ryan probably put another Tony Robbins video, and he keeps sort of inviting me, and so kindly, and literally my mindset was, are you kidding me? I don't have time for this.
Right.
But yet I knew I was a growth person, so there was really no problem. Mm-hmm. I would say that it's only been the past 3 years that we have been intentionally dreaming and growing together.
Wow.
And I would say the last 3 years probably has been the most sort of, I want to say satisfying, because I feel like our relationship has always been sort of always in blossom mode. But when you're growing together, you really unearth a whole new person. Mm-hmm. And to a point now where it has become a way of life.
Yeah.
Reading together, learning together, studying together. And if I were to describe what makes our relationship grow, is that we're students. We're students of each other. I always say I'm a student of Ryan and Ryan's a student of me. I'm always learning something, and I think there's never a dull moment when you are growing, because you always have something to learn about each other. Mm-hmm. But we're always students of life. We're students of so many amazing, beautiful things. And I think it really creates a different dynamic on how awesome relationship could be when you're never the same person.
Yeah.
And you're always fully expanding. So I wanted to share that because I think it's a good point of hope for so many couples that maybe didn't know that dreaming and growing was or ought to be part of a culture, and that maybe you're not starting out that way. I want to say that I didn't.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's the first thing people are thinking of necessarily. And the reason why is because when we first fall for someone, usually they are the be all end all. Mm-hmm. You know, they're perfect, they could do no wrong. And so there's no thought of, I want this person to change and grow with me over the years, because they're already perfect.
Yeah.
It's only in evaluating and planning for literally spending a life with someone where you realize the key and the way to avoid becoming trapped and to have the fulfillment that you want is to continually be cultivating yourselves.
Correct.
And it's so important to be sharing that. So what I love is that Ryan shares those books and things with you.
Yeah.
It's not that, you know, he has his meetings with his work colleagues and you have your meetings with your team and you guys never talk about it, right? Like there's so much integration and shared dialogue and even asking each other's advice.
Oh, it's huge.
About things.
Yeah.
Like definitely I see you guys ask each other advice, and a lot of times that is not present in a relationship. So I think it's really important that there's a mutual respect and sharing of perspectives.
Yeah, and we really rely on each other for advice. And I think partly because we read the same book, so I can say, well, babe, you know that's not the right path. Or he can say the same thing. It's like, no, we're supposed to leap, remember? Or we're supposed to, because when you have a common book and a common path, it's easy to hold each other accountable. So there's, you really take away the, I want to say, having to fight what's right and what's not right, because if you're reading a book on how to dream together or the paradigms, it's simple. It's not January's way or Ryan's way. It's, we're trying to create this kind of life. We're trying to work from a design backwards of the life you want. And this is the path. Therefore, it doesn't matter what I think or you think.
Yeah.
We know that this is So what I'm saying is that it eliminates conflict in so many ways, because you're not trying to have a war with opinions. It's clear.
Yeah.
And that's why I think reading together and growing together, and it really builds a level of trust, because you know each other in so many layers, but yet you're growing together and there's an unknown and yet a known, that you can trust that person because you know each other so well, but yet there's this unknown. So it creates that exciting thing. So Ryan and I have dream dates where we really literally bring a book.
I love this.
And we read together and we dream together and we write down. Ryan is always so full. I mean, he just got me like a bunch of index cards. He calls it the goal cards. And he always puts his vision right behind, cuts out his pictures, and he says, honey, this is for you. Or literally, this is my husband. He would be leaving to take the children to school, and he literally have it queued up, another sort of mentor box that just listen to this, it's just 5 minutes to kind of get your mindset straight. And I'm like, really, right, I can't like learn anything right now, and I'm constantly sort of like, but yet that's sort of the yin and yang, is that if you're constantly
you do that
growing,
for him too.
yes,
Yeah.
and I would say he does that more for me than him, but it's sort of seasons as well.
Yeah.
Where there's seasons where I'm doing a lot more, but when you're both growing, you can kind of do it together, do the dance together. And I think that's an important commitment for couples. And so when you're engaged, I would say that you would do a disservice when you're not intentionally reading together and growing together and creating new language together. And that's the key word.